The Cleveland Browns, as many of you all know, came into this offseason with so many questions and decisions to make, and now is the time where they have to start making them, with volunteer workouts already starting to begin. From extending JOK to what to do with the few draft picks they have, I am going to be talking about everything in this video. But before I begin, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, plus you can always change your mind. We are on the road to 20k subscribers, and with your support, I believe we can get there super fast. Alright, so with voluntary camps here, Deshaun Watson made his appearance, and just about a week ago, a video went viral of him saying that he should be ready to go for week 1. And take it for what it's worth, but it's a good sign. Watson has spent the majority of the last 5 months in Los Angeles rehabbing his shoulder. Also, more news is that Nick Chubb reworked his contract to make sure he's in Cleveland for the 2024 season. There was a possibility the Browns could cut him to save salary cap space, but if they decided to do that, this whole fanbase would turn on the team. He's the heart and soul of everything this team is about, and I still think he can return and be a top 5 back in the league. And also, just a side comment, I am so hyped the Browns are bringing the white face mask back full time. It is such a clean and classic look. Anyways, the sayings, this is the most underrated team in the NFL, this team is insanely talented, that has all gotten lost in the Deshaun Watson discourse. And I think, no surprise here, the main reason why the Browns are in this position is because people only focus and nitpick on the negative. I mean, we've seen with how contracts have been covered with this team, where people have the most doom and gloom approach. Remember how people were making videos nationally about how the Browns would have to cut Nick Chubb because of Deshaun Watson's contract, and how it would be impossible for them to bring back everybody, let alone add guys. But this offseason, they brought back everybody and then added Jerry Jeudy despite the fact that the national people told you that was impossible. People's feelings about Deshaun Watson have gotten in the way of seeing what this team is actually doing. When you see people praise Philadelphia for doing the exact same thing that the Cleveland Browns are doing, this is the kind of effect that happens to them, because when the Browns do the same thing Philly is doing, they get criticized for it. So anyways, why are the Browns the most underrated team in the NFL? They're a very talented team. They were able to pretty much bring back all of their key starters from a team that was able to not only go 11-6, but go 11-6 with a significant portion of the roster out. Literally a quarter of their roster went out to season-ending injuries. And not only are they returning that roster, this is not an old roster. This is a roster that most of the starters are within 25 to 28. So not only are you returning a ton of talented players, you're returning a ton of talented players in their prime. You're talking about guys who are either in their early 30s to mid-late 20s that you're relying on, which is exactly the target area of players that you want to rely on. You know that this team has a great locker room dynamic. Now that's not something that's guaranteed to carry over year after year, but they had a great locker room dynamic last year. They're returning the same key veterans in key spots. That should be something that's super important. So not only is this team talented, this is also a team with very knowledgeable veterans that many guys like to be around, which is an angle I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, because I think when people think of the Cleveland Browns, they remember the Browns accumulating all those picks, and they feel like all of the Browns' best players are still on their rookie deals. But that's not the case. Most of the Browns' best players are on their second or third contract with the franchise, which means that this is not a young team anymore. The Texans are a super young team, similar to what the Browns were in 2018 and 2019, when they traded for Odell Beckham. They have young leadership, they have guys who have really only been with the franchise for 1 or 2 years leading them. The Cleveland Browns have a completely different thing going, where not only do they have older players that are in their prime, not only do they have veteran players who have been through it, not only do they have battle-tested veteran players, these players have been battle-tested as Cleveland Browns. They've been in this organization, in this building, for at least 4 years with Kevin Stefanski, some of them longer than that when you're talking about Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, and David Njoku. Like, when you're really talking about the core of this team, you're talking about guys who have been here 5 to 6 years, have been on this team, know how the season goes in this city, know how the weather goes in this city, know how AFC North football goes during the course of the year, and they're not just a veteran unit. They're a very talented veteran unit that has a ton of great football left in them. In the NFL, we understand the concept of returning players making things easier, but we tend to get wrapped up in the draft, we tend to get wrapped up in free agency. That continuity and having a veteran team flies under the radar. It's cool to bring in free agents, it's cool to bring in draft picks and play them right away at this point of the year, but the teams that are winning in January, the teams that are winning in February, are not the teams that are playing a bunch of dudes that they signed in March and that they drafted in April. It's just facts. Like the teams that we are talking about at the end of the year here, being serious contenders, they're never, and I'm going to say this again just so it's clear, they're never the teams that are built from the draft and free agency all in 1 year. That's for a reason, because continuity matters. Bringing back guys and having that chemistry with the talent attached to it on a roster, that matters. That has flown under the radar. The Browns not only have talent, they have veteran talent, and that veteran talent is at the peak part of their career. Here's another thing, and look, I'll get more into this in another video, but last year, the Cleveland Browns proved that this version of this roster can play through having a bad quarterback. People said that Joe Flacco was better than Deshaun Watson, the take that I have to disagree with when you look at the context of how everything went down. But the truth is that the Browns last year passed for 3,693 yards, threw for 24 touchdowns, and threw 23 interceptions. The 23 interceptions were the most in the NFL. If you can survive that kind of quarterback play, you have the type of team that can win. If you get a team that, like if Deshaun Watson just comes in here, puts up those same stats, but throws 10 less interceptions, you're talking about the 1 seed in the NFL. That's how bad the quarterback play, how inconsistent the quarterback play was last year. And that's how much it didn't matter. Joe Flacco can throw a bunch of interceptions because the defense can get a ton of stops. Deshaun Watson can miss a bunch of games because the defense can carry PJ Walker and DTR to multiple victories. The quarterback position just didn't matter as much when it came to wins and losses last year because the defense was so dominant. You were able to get away with a lot at the quarterback position, which means that when it comes to the quarterback position, you have a wide berth of outcomes that you can live with and still get a ton of wins out of, which again, when it comes to projecting a team, is very important, because the quarterback position for the rest of the teams, like there's like 6 teams that got great quarterbacks. For everybody else, it's trying to figure it out. That's the biggest determiner, the thing that determines whether your season's going to be good or not. So the more your season relies less and less on the quarterback, the better your chances are to be a good team that year. But yeah, I think it's best if the Browns just stay under the radar and nobody hypes them up. And in reality, they really don't deserve to be hyped up by the media because they haven't proven anything. It's always just all on paper. That's really all I got for this video. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed and haven't yet, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. And also, follow me on Instagram because I'm posting tons of cool sports content on there every day. And until next time, I will see you all later.